So again, every time I talk about how I don't want to give money to Blizzard Activision, someone says not buying their product hurts the workers, a boycott hurts the workers. And I don't think that people are really thinking through what this means. I mean, I've given all my reasons for why I don't think that's true. Workers are already paid. They don't get royalties. But even if that wasn't the case, think about the world that we would live in if what you said is correct, if not buying a product harms those workers. Let's say a game comes out and you're just not interested in it. If you then don't buy that game, are you harming those workers? Is that acceptable to just not buy a game you don't want? If it's not because it harms the workers, does that mean that you are morally responsible for buying every video game to not harm the workers? And if it is okay to not buy a game you don't want, even though it harms the workers, then wouldn't it therefore also be okay to not buy a game that you don't want to support because of something shitty that the company has done? Because if it's permissible to not buy something just because you're not interested, it seems even more permissible to not buy something because you don't want to support something shitty someone has done. Like this logical thought line of don't boycott this game because it will hurt the worker logically makes consumers responsible for buying everything. That's an insane world to live in. What if a game is just shitty? If a game is shitty, people don't buy it. And if people don't buy it, then sometimes companies go under and sometimes people lose their jobs. Those people are trying to feed their families too. Are you supposed to buy every shitty game? What about games that are marketed poorly? The game might be good, but marketing's screwed up. Are you on the hook for buying that game because the developers did their best? Or what if the game sucks, but the marketers did their best? Are you on the hook for buying that shitty game because the marketers need to feed their families? Look, capitalism sucks, okay? But since we live in it, the most powerful thing you can do is vote with your dollar. There are lots of reasons that companies can get into trouble. The game isn't good. The marketers didn't do a good job. It came out in a bad sales window. Heck, games can lose sales just because they're going up against a better game, even though that game is great itself. And all of these reasons can be reasons why people get laid off, or people have to find a new project, or people have to switch companies. That happens all the time. Employee turnover in the gaming industry is huge. So if this fairly common employee turnover can happen just because a game wasn't all that great, or it came out in the summer when no one was buying games, or it went up against Tears of the Kingdom or something like that. If that's all acceptable, then it's also acceptable for that to happen because a company did something reprehensible. Like, the logic that I don't get here is that somehow it's not okay to boycott a game, to not buy a game, if a company does something morally reprehensible, but it is okay to not buy a game for every other reason. That makes no sense to me. When you are a consumer, making a purchase is showing some support. There's lots of reasons why you wouldn't want to show support. Maybe you just don't like the product. Or maybe you don't like what the company does. Both are acceptable. But if what you are saying is true, if it is morally wrong to not support the workers by not buying a game when a company has done something reprehensible, then every single time you haven't bought a game, you've harmed the workers that made that game. Every single time. And I know you haven't bought every game in the universe. That's why this makes no sense. This line of reasoning makes absolutely no sense. Buy Blizzard games if you want, but don't say that you're doing it to support the workers, because you don't treat any other game that way. You only treat things that way when someone brings up that they're not buying it for a moral reason. I'm sure you're not losing sleep that you harmed the people who made Barbie Horse Adventures 2 because you didn't buy it because you weren't interested. So I'm not going to lose sleep that I didn't buy Diablo 4 because the CEO and several higher ups in the company did morally reprehensible things.